And if you can give yourself that grace, then even if you do have to face the disappointment of missing out on something, I don't think we'll be as hard on ourselves, and maybe, just maybe, we're not going to point the blame finger at ourselves, but accept that there was something we couldn't control. Hello, and welcome back to another week of Calling in Sick. I'm your host, Alex Wilderson. It's been a minute since I recorded an episode. I took a little winter vacation, pre-recorded a bunch of episodes, and then gave myself like a 2 or 3 week break of no recording. Part of that was because I had IVIG week and tried recording during that once, and it was extraordinarily difficult. But it feels really good to get back into the podcast studio, back in the seat, and catch up with you guys. Oh my gosh, I feel like I have so much. I feel like I have nothing to tell you update-wise, and also so much to tell you update-wise, all in the same breath. But before we dive into my life updates, as you guys know, like, follow, subscribe to the podcast, send it to a friend that you think needs to listen to this. But this week, in this whole year, every episode, I'm going to ask you guys a question so I can hear your stories that have to do with each podcast topic. This week's episode is all about going to events as a chronically sick person. So in the comments, please let me know, what is the number one thing that you must have with you when you go to an event that makes you feel like you're prepared as a chronically ill person? I know what mine is. I'm going to share it during this episode, so stay tuned. All right, life-wise, what's been going on? I had IVIG, it went okay. I had small allergic reactions every single day, but no like large systemic responses like, a cardiac episode or something. But that's my bar for bad, because when I tried Humira a few years back, very first time I took it, took the injection, went and took a bath, and then all of a sudden my heart rate went up to like 180 while I was relaxing. It was a horrifying experience, very uncomfortable. We called the 911 and an ambulance came and got me because I literally thought I was having a heart attack, but turns out it was just a reaction to Humira. Have you guys had a reaction like that before, or was something else going on we just totally missed? We don't know. We may never know. So during that week, it was Cooper and my 5-year wedding anniversary, and obviously we weren't going to go out to dinner after an infusion because I get 75 milligrams of IV Benadryl every single time I get IVIG. So yeah, doing anything afterwards is just a no-go. However, he did the cutest thing in the world. I've always told him that one of my favorite things growing up was my brother and sister and I building pillow forts and then watching movies within said pillow fort. So I came home from my infusion, my third infusion of the week, and Cooper had set up our blow-up mattress with all the blankets. He had taken, what's it called? I'm going to say it wrong. QVC pipe? Something like that. The plastic white piping stuff, that people use in gardens to make those little arches. He used that stuff, put him across our couch, hung a blanket over that, wrapped Christmas lights around that, and made it kind of looked like one of those beach... kind of looked like one of those beach day beds, but in our living room in front of our big ass TV. And we watched Wicked, I think 3 times that week. I am obsessed, to say the least. The music is so freaking good. The cast was phenomenal. Bowen Yang, his ad-libs are just so good. So that was a big highlight to kick off the start of the year. And so that's how we started the year. And I know I made this whole episode about in 2025, we're going to go into the new year with all these good intentions and we're going to get after it. I did not start the new year the first week of the new year because I was doing IVIG and then recovering. And so week 2 of the new year, I remember thinking, man, I am a piece of shit. I have done nothing for the wellness. I have completely fallen off the horse. I'm not putting my actions where my words are. And if I'm telling other people to go and get after their wellness activities and I'm not doing it, then something is deeply wrong. But then I did a little reflection and I realized despite IVIG, I got movement in almost every single day. I went on a walk with Cooper. Yes, some of those days were much shorter walks. Nonetheless, I still went on walks. I also hyperhydrated because that obviously helps with IVIG's number one side effect, which is headache. And I slept a lot. So 3 big wins that I needed to remind myself of. And I think I made a post about this week. But when you are kind of in the thick of something, it's really hard to remember what good things have happened recently or in your day. So I am going to bring that kind of learning with me for the rest of this year. That when I start talking negatively to myself, I'm going to stop and say, wait, what are the good things I have been doing that I can be proud of myself about? First lesson of 2025. We love it. We love it. Being kind to ourselves. The second week, and then the week following IVIG, this awful winter storm came through, and I am now no longer a strong Norwegian woman, born in DC, raised in the Midwest, a fierce competitor to the winter tundra. No, I'm a whole baby now, and I married someone who's an even bigger baby about cold temperatures, so that week almost destroyed me. But I started realizing that IVIG might be doing a little something, because instead of being bedridden for that entire week, even though the weather was yo-yoing like 40 to 50 degrees every single day, I was able to work in my office all but one day. Yes, Cooper had to help me a lot more than usual, aka I did not do any house chores. All I did was get my work done and rest. I still think I did better than what I would have done without IVIG. So another win. Very excited about that. Especially because IVIG was more difficult this last infusion. I actually think I might switch brands or try to switch brands. Might be a little allergic to the wash that they're using on this one. So if you are not tolerating IVIG very well, ask your doctor if you can switch brands, because maybe there's one that uses a different wash for the immunoglobulins that you would that your body could handle a little bit better. So I mentioned I was resting that week. Guys, I binged so many TV shows, literally start to finish, season beginning to season end, sometimes more than one season. Laid on Peacock, great. Traders on Peacock, phenomenal. If you have not watched either of those, go pay $6 for that little Peacock subscription. Binge till your heart is complete and full. You will not regret it. Cooper and I were obsessed with both of them. They're good, feel-good shows. And that brings us, I guess, to this week, which has been a doozy psychologically. Because I'm traveling, and y'all know I am the biggest bitch when it comes to traveling. I get anxious but deny that I'm anxious and just let it percolate and build. And Cooper will be like, let's start doing the things that make you less anxious. And I'm like, no, go away. I'm doing great. And then I get anxious and have panic attacks. So will she learn? We don't know. Will she pack less than 200 pounds? We don't know. To be determined. I will keep you guys posted. But I will tell you guys why I'm traveling, which is very exciting. As y'all know, I am a finance girly. And after a career in investment banking and private equity and allocator roles, I decided enough was enough, and I went into business with my sister, and we have a strategy firm. She focuses on helping startups navigate last fundraise to next fundraise with their go-to-market strategy and branding and brand relationships and customer relationships and event hosting. She's just a badass. And I focus on emerging managers. So these are people opening up a fund for the first time to invest into those startups. And one of my clients is a total rockstar badass, ex-journalist turned investment banker, turned investor, really focused on agentic AI. She's just deep in that space. Her special sauce, if you will, for investors is really, really cool and differentiated. But she's hosting an event alongside the French ambassador in DC. And my sister and I are lucky enough that we get to attend as her +1 and 2. I honestly looked at the guest list and I have no place. I have literally no reason, no place to be there besides the fact that the person hosting the event is my client. Because these are movers and shakers in the tech and AI ecosystem. So, given I'm traveling again for work, and I've been really procrastinating on doing my corporate work, and I've really been procrastinating on doing the chronic illness and work episode. I don't know why, but it just seems like a beast to tackle. So I'm still thinking through how to chunk that up for you guys so I can get everybody's questions covered and also try to paint a good picture of what it's like being chronically ill in the workforce. So instead of doing that episode this week, I instead am going to talk about being chronically ill and navigating events. Not just work events like this one that I'm going to, but any event. I think this episode will hopefully apply to things like weddings or baby showers, those kind of like big life moments where you really are going to try hard to get to that place. And there's nothing better than just, spilling my guts out about how I'm currently feeling about an upcoming event, because raw is real. But before we dive into that, let's go through my picks of the week. The first pick of the week is CurrentBody's Series 2 infrared face mask. They sent it to me to try out, and I was an immediate convert to this product. It has me in a chokehold. So I don't forget about all the great things. I wrote down some notes to share with you guys of why you might want to take a look at it. So there are 236 LED lights within this mask. CurrentBody is the only company that I know of that tests each LED light individually to ensure that the wavelengths that this thing is delivering to our skin is correct, safe, and works. And this is important because there's actually 3 clinical wavelengths that this mask provides, which is near red light, infrared light, and deep near infrared light. And each of those wavelengths do different things to promote health in our skin, from like anti-aging properties to detoxification to inflammation and swelling. I'm not the expert on any of it, but I will post on social media this week some intel onto the face mask if you guys are curious. And as always, I got a code for y'all. Use Alexandra Wildeson for 10% out checkout. And for the second pick of the week, I'm so excited. It's a shopping platform that I just started using last year, honestly. It's called Tuckernuck, and it is amazing. And they are some of the kindest people. They're based in DC, headquartered, I think, in Georgetown. Or maybe that's where their flagship store is. Anyway, with this event coming up, I sent them a DM and I was like, SOS fashion emergency. This is the kind of event I'm going to. It's in DC, and I know that business casual and cocktail attire means something completely different when it's with this echelon of human beings. Can you please help me understand what I should wear? Not only did they do that, but they sent me a bunch of clothes to try on and helped dress me for this event, which was above and beyond kind and generous. It took this huge anxiety and pressure that I had been building up and candidly procrastinating about off my shoulders. I now feel like I am going to be dressed in the best and ready to take on the event in the room. And I think that that is a good transition point into this episode topic of events, because one of the number one things for me, if I'm going to an event and I'm committed to it and going, is I need to look good to feel good. I will stand by that statement time and time again, because I really do think that if we look in the mirror and we feel like we look good, our minds are responsive to those kind of feelings. And then that naturally makes us feel a little bit better physically. The best example I have about this real time is when my best friend got married in November. I had my second round of IVIG. Reminder, I go 5 days in a row. The dose gets split into 1/5 for each of those days. Lots of Benadryl. The infusions take a while for me to get through them without a reaction. So Friday night was her welcome party, which I had RSVP'd yes to, but had told her, this is very tentative for me because I'm getting a treatment that day. We'll see what energy levels are like afterwards, and also how it goes. Well, the infusion went until 7 p.m., so I completely missed the event. So great that I communicated that prior. But I got a spray tan that week. I have this wonderful woman in Austin who comes to my house and will give me a spray tan. She did that. I felt beautiful, as a spray tan does for any of us. And so Saturday, when the day of the wedding, I was ready to go, even though I was exhausted from IVIG and had a little bit of a headache, a little bit of nausea. I powered through, and I was able to be at the wedding for actually longer than I thought. I thought I was just going to make it through the ceremony and maybe dinner. And that would be like best case scenario. But we made it through the ceremony, the dinner, and the start of the dancing. And damn, I was so proud and so impressed. And honestly, I'm going to chalk that right up to the accommodations I set up beforehand, making a plan and an exit strategy with Cooper, doing all the prep that I did that week leading up to the event and getting a fucking spray tan. So let's dive into all of those things, because this is now turning into my guide of how to do events when you're chronically ill. Okay, so the number one thing with events, when you get the invite, you have to be communicative. I think it's very easy in our circumstances to get overwhelmed by the fact that we can't predict how we're going to feel on a certain day. So committing to something in the future is a little daunting, and it puts a lot of pressure on us. But that's not a bad thing. I think committing to events becomes this negative connotation in our lives because so many of our events that we had looked forward to unfortunately fall through during our rough patch periods. So part of this episode is that reframing, which I am actively still trying to do and not great at it, but we are in this together. But even though it's daunting to commit to something in advance, it is so important to actually communicate with the host if you can and cannot go. First and foremost, it's the right thing to do. It's polite and considerate of them. But second thing is, an invitation to an event is an expense for the host, and it's usually on a per head basis. That is something I did not appreciate until I myself got married, and I realized that each person that I invited to my wedding had a dollar sign attached to it for the food that they were going to be eating, the drinks that they were going to be drinking, the table setting, whole 9 yards. There is a cost per each guest. So if you are not communicative at all, and the host assumes that you're going to come, and then you don't show up, that's frustrating and also inconsiderate. So instead of doing that, here's what we do. We RSVP. If our plans are clear, we RSVP yes. If our treatments are going well, and if we are currently feeling okay, you RSVP yes. If any of those three don't hold true, you can consider RSVPing no. But if you are RSVPing yes, I also think it's important to shoot the host a text message, give them a call, whatever floats your boat, and just let them know, I've RSVP'd as yes. My current plan is to come. I want you to know my health is unpredictable. There is always going to be a possibility that the week of, I might not be able to make it. And I just want to let you know that ahead of time. And if that is a problem, let me know. I would love to be there, but if that's not something that is okay, I understand. And that gives the host kind of the opportunity to say, okay, well, we are in a really tight budget, and knowing that, maybe we don't. Or it gives the host the ability to say, thank you so much for letting me know. I'm totally on board with playing it by ear, and we're in it together. And if it's someone that you're close with, that's going to be the answer and the response. So I guess the number 2 lesson of this episode is communication is key. Over-communicate. If you over-communicate, I think you'll feel better yourself. The host will feel better. And even if your health is unpredictable, you can have things put in place then to accommodate anything. And it also level sets expectations, which is great. That leads us into accommodations. So if you are going to an event, it is likely that you will need some kind of accommodations, be that dietary or physical. When we think about dietary, most events come with a do you have any food restrictions question. You always fill that out. I've been known to leave off gluten and dairy and just roll the dice at the event if I'm going to be eating gluten or dairy. But I think going into 2025, I'm really going to try to not feel bad about saying I can't eat peanuts or tree nuts or gluten or dairy, and know that there's actually options that exist in today's world that can feed someone that's like that. There's so many alternatives. Like, I used to fear saying peanuts and tree nuts and dairy because most of the alternatives were nut-based, like oat, rice, flax. There's so many different ones now that are super mainstream, and they taste delicious. So now I'm going to move forward with actually putting all of my food restrictions in there, and knowing and giving myself the grace that is not a burden. That is okay. Okay, so let's talk about prepping for an event, so talking about deciding this decision if I'm bringing a cane or not, I guess falls into the category of prepping for an event. You have to think through those kind of accommodations that you might need with you. I find when I am nervous about an event, I procrastinate horrifically. The packing, the preparation, really all things bundled with travel. What I do really well is physically prep myself for the travel though. And honestly, if I had to pick one or the other, I'm glad I do the latter because that is what actually unlocks and enables the travel. And Sweet St. Cooper can help me with the panic packing that I do every single time. He laughs, he gives me shit as he should, but he also gives me grace and love and very calmly helps me pack and calms my anxiety or panic attack that I'm having usually the night before. Let's talk about what I do physically to prepare for an event or travel. And I've talked about it a little bit on the travel side, but maybe not on the event side. Infrared sauna. My goal is to do the infrared sauna every single day for 7 days leading up to said event or travel. Realistically, I probably get like 3 to 5 days in. And if I'm getting a spray tan, 2 to 3 days in. Because your girl's not going to sweat off a spray tan by choice. Other things that I do is I try to book an IV appointment if I can to prehydrate before the event. Y'all know that I'm not a big drinker. I drink maybe 12 times a year. That said, I get so fucking dehydrated, I think from stress, and I sweat profusely, and I also take extra steroids around and day of said events or travel. So this is TMI, but I just sweat a lot then. So I get dehydrated. IVs help that immensely. Buoy helps that immensely. So I am making sure I'm drinking water. And then if that's not enough, supplementing that with IV hydration. I like to have something to look forward to after the event because usually afterwards, I've used all my spoons. I may be running in the negative territory. And when that happens, I'm sure as hell that I will be in pain. So I book a massage. I book an infrared sauna appointment. And I have a little TLC day waiting for me when I'm done and I get back. It's like so I have a care day and then, duvet day, obviously. Other physical activities that I do to prepare for events is eat well. I try to control what I can control. This is maybe not great advice because I know all of us have like this building pressure that goes before events of if I don't do everything perfect and I flare up, that's my fault. At least that's where my mind goes. So I do try to control everything I can leading up to that event to try to engineer a successful attendance to said event. So that means I'm eating super in diet, which I didn't do this week. I had queso for the first time in a year and a half. It was so good. And then movement. So movement for me is not just a physical unlock for wellness and preparing for something, but it's also a mental health tool for me. Y'all know I struggle with depression, and obviously it is very clear on this episode I struggle with anxiety and panic attack disorder. Movement is so critical for maintaining a normal baseline for myself, and if I don't get it in, I can feel all of that rising and percolating even more than it already is. Which is not great. And when I don't get movement in, especially leading into an event or travel, my anxiety level is just through the roof, and it is not something I can handle, honestly. While we're kind of on the note of mental health, and I touched on it a little bit earlier, but this surmounting pressure that we put on ourselves around event. I want to talk about it a little bit because it is totally fair for so many different reasons. And I think one of the main when I was sitting down and thinking about this episode, it kind of dawned on me why we put so much pressure on ourselves for it. Our attendance to events is few and far between as a chronically ill person, meaning we have to miss a lot of events, be that big life events like friends or family getting married, or work events that you were excited about, or baby showers, or even just being a consistent attendee at a friend group watch party for a TV show. Our diseases and our bodies are just not predictable. And that makes it really hard to commit to events. And I'm sure we've all had friend fallouts because of that. So naturally, as we get closer and closer to events that we have said yes to and hopefully communicated and set expectations correctly around, there is this historical buildup and fear around the what ifs. What if my body decides to collapse? What if I build up all of this excitement and hope and joy that I'm going to be able to go do something fun for once, and then I disappoint not just my friend, but myself. And I think that is the kicker. That was the one where I was sitting here going, yep, that's why I get so fucking anxious. I don't want to disappoint myself. I don't want to get excited about something only to be disappointed. And I don't think that's the fear of missing out, actually, but the fear of disappointing ourselves. So FODO is the new thing for the chronically ill, I guess. And I don't think it's right. And I don't think the solution to getting away from this FODO is to not let ourselves get excited about events, because looking forward to things and having hope is what makes life really beautiful. And we shouldn't be barred from that just because we're chronically ill. And that's something that I have to remind myself of often. And I want y'all to remind yourself of this too. Just because we are chronically ill does not mean that we should not have joy, hope, and fun. What I do think the answer is just constant self-talk. That it's okay if something falls through. That it's okay if we do everything right and our body says, not today. There's things that are out of our control that are going to cause flare-ups, that are going to cause medications to not work correctly, that are going to be blockers to our ability to do or not do something. And if you can give yourself that grace, then even if you do have to face the disappointment of missing out on something, I don't think we'll be as hard on ourselves. And maybe, just maybe, we're not going to point the blame finger at ourselves, but accept that there was something we couldn't control. And that's the culprit. So I guess what I'm trying to say is you shouldn't bar yourself from having fun. You should RSVP yes still. And it's okay if you have fear that you're going to disappoint yourself, because we're going to remind ourselves that we also can have hope, that we're going to have fun and be able to go. And we're going to give ourselves grace that even if we do everything right leading up to said event and shit happens, we're not the one to blame. There are other uncontrollable factors that happen. And hopefully from this episode, now there's things in place where all parties involved have shared level of expectations and understanding and over communication. So there isn't this friendship friction or anything. There's just the disappointment of not being able to partake in said event. But I will say, if you do have to miss out an event, we're going to have a duvet day. An epic duvet day. It is a self-care marathon then, and you're leaning into it and you're treating yourself to something because you deserve that. We can engineer joy for ourselves still. So let's spend a little bit of time though on actually going to this event, because we could spend all day talking about being disappointed and sad and how to cope with that. But I'm not a fucking therapist and I don't have all the right tools and answers for that one. And I still am dealing with that one myself. If you're traveling with your primary caregiver, you can pack the 3 suitcases that each weigh 100 pounds or whatever. Bring all your tools for sleep, for pain management, for recovery. You name it, you can bring it with you. If you have someone like St. Cooper that can, carry it all for you and lug it around. If you're traveling solo or traveling with someone who is not your primary caregiver, that might be too much for them. So we've got to prioritize what is most important for us to unlock a successful attendance of that trip or event. So for DC, I'm going with my sister, who is a secondary caregiver in my life. She is petite. She is not going to be able to lug around a bunch of heavy fucking suitcases. I love her, and she's jacked as fuck because she's got a 2-year-old that she carries around that is a chunky monkey. But no, we're not doing that. And it's also cold and icy and no. So I am picking and choosing what is most important to me to have a successful event. And I have decided that is going to be pain management and sleep. The recovery whole thing can happen when I get home. That means I'm not bringing my compression legs. I might bring my PEMF mat. TBD, that's a question mark. That's like a giant heating pad. I'm definitely bringing my heating pad. And I'm bringing my sleep accoutrement. Earplugs, sleep mask, my crown pillow. Y'all, I don't know if I've talked about it enough. Obsessed with my crown pillow. It's the best thing ever. I now am going to have 2 because I put one by my port when I'm sleeping and one over my eyes for comfort and for light and sound blockage. For pain, I'm bringing my lidocaine stick, I'm bringing my heating pad, I'm bringing my meds and my backup meds, and I know no matter what happens, I'm going to hopefully have good sleep, and and if I do have a pain spike, I've got all my tools with me, and I can hopefully manage it enough to get back home to do all the recovery things that I would need to do. I'm also trying to stay comfortable. That's a really, really big thing for events. If you want to extend the duration that you're able to be at something, you got to be comfortable. So shoes, that's a big thing through. For this event, it's pretty formal, and I'm not wearing a maxi dress. So I don't know if I can get away with wearing sneakers, though I wouldn't put it past me. I have done that before. I might be stuck wearing some dressy shoes. I'm already fucking dreading. I hate wearing dressy shoes. I used to love it. I used to love wearing heels. I had quite the beautiful heel collection. I've sold them all. I have just a handful left. I fucking hate wearing heels. It hurts my feet so bad. I'm not into it. And it honestly ruins the event and the night for me. So I might have just convinced myself to wear a different outfit so that I can wear tennis shoes. I'm also going to be bringing a purse that has a lot of health accoutrement in it. And that will unlock, I think, both the feeling of security that no matter what happens with my body during an event, I'll be okay, and also comfortability. So like if I have a pain spike, I got stuff to make myself comfortable again. I guess last thing is practicability. Dressed in a practical way. Yes, if you want to be a fashionista, lean the fuck in, but you can still be practical and fashionable at the same time. I will be posting my OOTDs while I'm there. Check them out. Hopefully that's inspo for like some formal events while remaining comfortable for all of us. And again, thank you to Tuckernuck for making that a possibility for me. And I think the last important thing is, if you are going to the event, give yourself permission to have some fun. It is so easy to get stuck in our routines of being sick and not wanting to burn too many spoons or overdo it because what if? It's also totally natural being chronically ill, masking it as a baseline sickness, which some of us do around the people that don't understand our illnesses and offend us and question us when we're having good days, as if we're not allowed to have a good day being chronically ill, or if we have a good day and then have a bad day or a bad hour. They just don't understand, so you just are a constant mask of like baseline, I feel medium. Give yourself permission to have that event be good. You don't have to put on a mask or any airs for anybody on how good you're feeling. You can be authentic in how you are feeling. And if it's good that day, have fun. Also, events come, as I said at the top of the episode, events come few and far between that we're actually able to go to. So if you are going, have fun, allow yourself to do some of the things that you might not regularly do. Spend too many spoons. If you like to dance on the dance floor and it's an event that has a dancing bit, like a wedding, get out there and get those little happy feet moving. You can always recover later. It's okay if it causes a little flare up. Life is short. Indulge when you can. I so firmly believe that. I know that's a statement that not everyone agrees with, but for me, after 25 years of living like this, it's worth it to lean in and have fun when you can. I think the last thing I want to note on about having fun and giving yourself permission to have fun is that when you do this, it all of a sudden creates a positive association in your brain with events. And so maybe over time, my hope is that if we all do this, events become less anxiety driving and affiliated yet again with having fun like they did maybe before we were sick. That's my intention out of this year, is harnessing that joy. So when I do go to an event, hopefully I'm less anxious leading up to it and then can have more fun while I'm there. Because Lord knows we deserve it. I have missed so many weddings, so many work dinners, so many happy hours, watch parties, what have you, the last 5 years alone due to my health, that I want to be able to have events on the calendar that I don't have anxiety around, that I'm just looking forward to. And when I get there, I'm just having fun. And yes, fun looks totally different than it used to. I used to be the after party girl, staying up late, having a glass of wine, deep life chats about probably aliens and conspiracy theories, and just getting like a great laugh in, creating memories with my friends. I'm not that late night girl anymore. I am like to get home by 9 p.m. and in bed by that time. So I just optimize the time that I'm there. And I think that's really important because nothing is guaranteed. We as chronic illness warriors are acutely aware of that. Nothing is guaranteed. Our health could turn at the drop of a dime at any second. So even more the reason to enjoy it when we can. Okay, and last thing about actually attending the event. Someone inevitably is going to ask you, how are you? How are you doing? If they know you, they might ask about your health. It is up to you to share as much as you want and to mask as much as you want. I view it as I don't need to show up as Alex, the chronically ill person, to every single event. In fact, I don't want to show up as a sick person to every single event, shockingly, even though it's such an integral part of my identity. For the DC event that I'm going to, I know people will ask me, what do you do? And so that will obviously open the door to a conversation about my health. For those that do know me at the event and ask how my health's been going, I am at a place in my life where I don't mind opening up about that, even if it's a work environment. But that's not for everybody. And so I think the way to navigate that always is to, before the event, preparation is key. I think you guys are hearing that. Intentions, preparations, thinking through and setting yourself up for success is the way to have success. But thinking through how much do you want to show of that part of you? Because with these events comes this heightened emotion. If you're taking extra prednisone around events like me, extra emotion can mean all of a sudden you're giving an update about your health and you're finding that you're actually really emotional about it. So really sussing that out with yourself if that's what you want to do or not. And there's no right or wrong answer. It's literally up to you and how you're feeling with sharing that part of your life with people. And one hot take that I am going to share here is I do think that weddings, baby showers, these really important life events that other people host is not the place to, educate people and sass back. And what I mean by that is the viral post that I made about you don't look sick and saying, well, duh, I'm not ugly, I'm just sick. Maybe not, the weddings and baby showers might not be the appropriate venue for that one. I think it's a great venue to practice letting things roll off of you. My mom has this great saying, be the duck and let the water roll off of you. That applies to these events. It is a challenge in self-control. It is a challenge in emotional control. It is a challenge in identity. But it's worth it because, as we talked about earlier, those events, we already feel like we're making them about ourselves, asking for accommodations, having to over-communicate if we can or can't go sometimes last minute. It is not the event to ruffle feathers. Unless obviously someone's being a prick and asshole, and then have at it. Stand up for yourself, do whatever the fuck you need or want. But if someone makes an offhand comment like, you don't look sick, we are going to just assume good intent at these events for the sake of our friends that are hosting the event. I also think that there's a time and a place to share the emotional side of being chronically ill. For instance, at work events. Have I shared the emotional side of being chronically ill? Abso-fucking-lutely. Strangely enough, with a private equity team. We were just talking about life. The conversation opened up to being about chronic illness, and everyone at the table I was sitting at had some relation to chronic illness. They had lots of questions, they were open-minded, they were curious. So we talked about the emotional part of it. For this event, I'm not going in thinking that's going to happen. So if I do talk about chronic illness there, it'll be more high level on like the logistics of being chronically ill or having a business that is dedicated to being chronically ill. And what is that like? And what are my goals with that? To wrap up this episode, let's talk about canceling the plans and not going last minute. Because Lord knows we've all done that probably more times than we have fingers on our hands. I have been the worst about it and I have been the best at it. And I've learned a lot along the way on navigating canceling plans in a respectful and authentic and honest way. Obviously, there is an emotional part of it. So let's talk about logistics and then get into the emotions of it. Logistically, We already kind of talked about the logistics at the top of the episode. It's important to over-communicate. We now know in our heads that attending something is $1 per head. So if we are going to cancel, we need to let the people know ahead of time that that might be a possibility. And if that's not something that they're comfortable with, then that's okay. If we do have to cancel last minute on the event, it's important to be upfront, super direct, and honest. You don't have to over-explain. You don't have to sugarcoat things. All I say now is I have awful news. I am so sorry. My health has really taken a turn this week. I am unable to come to your event. My heart is absolutely broken, but I'm so excited to hear about it afterwards and catch up and look at pictures together. That allows me to not take too much of their timeshare. They can make changes and accommodations as needed, and then I can focus on what I need to at that point, which would be my health flaring up. And on that note, making last minute changes and accommodations. If you are traveling, book refundable always. The amount of dollars I lit on fire early on in my health journey because I did not realize how many events I would have to last minute cancel on is atrocious, absolutely atrocious. And now I just pony up the extra cash because if I do have to cancel, I don't want to have financial guilt too. Because that one hurts that one hurts for a while. Speaking of financial guilt, let's just talk about the guilt of canceling something. That is unavoidable. Even if you have done all of the things that we've talked about in this episode, the fear of disappointing ourselves is probably going to hit. There's going to be guilt that we've disappointed our friends. There's going to be guilt that we've thrown a wrench in other people's plans and in other people's events. We're going to feel grief for having our health dictate and impact something that we were looking forward to. And I think it's important to feel all of those things because if you let them build or you ignore them, you are denying your body the ability to process and unload those feelings. And I do think that those, there's that book, The Body Keeps the Score. Some people are split on if that's true or not. No matter what, sad emotions, angry emotions are affiliated to cortisol. If you have heightened cortisol, your body is going to feel it because that is inflammation. So in my opinion, the jury shouldn't be out. Difficult emotions can lead to difficult physical presentations. So deal with them, process them, set up that therapy appointment, even if you feel like you're being whiny about it. It's not whiny. Process the grief because it's very, very fair to feel sad and angry. You can't do something because of your health, because of your body. And on that note, being angry that your body is failing you. That's a very real identity thing, and we'll dive into that whole topic on another podcast episode. But what I'm trying to say is give yourself permission to feel the feels and then set up something to treat yourself. If every single event that I've had to miss or cancel on, I am booking something, I am doing something to give myself joy and happiness. That can be a really elevated duvet day. That can be splurging on a massage. That can be splurging on a pair of cute pajamas. That can be booking a massage. It can be, it can be doing a face mask. It can be doing a FaceTime date with one of your sick chick friends. But set up something for you so that you can still have joy during that time that you had carved out to already have joy, and treat yourself a little bit, because even if you have to cancel on something, that doesn't mean that you're not allowed to have fun on that day. And if that means that the people that you were supposed to meet up with don't understand that, then whatever. That's a conversation for down the road. So, as we think about events for 2025, I am hopeful that we all get to go to at least one thing that we are really looking forward to. I hope this episode gives you the courage to give yourself permission to have fun and to not let the fear of disappointment or fear of missing out weigh you down too much, and that you feel like you can prepare and communicate effectively to hopefully unlock a really successful event. And when you're there, now you have the tools on how to navigate having fun. It's so funny that we have to actually relearn how to have fun. I remember after finishing Cytoxin during COVID, being scared to go and do something that was fun because I felt like it was wrong to have fun. But I'm here to tell you it is not wrong to have fun. You can feel shitty and you can still let yourself have joy. And on that note, I need to stop procrastinating my packing. That has been looming over my shoulder, but I honestly feel better about it after recording this episode. So thank you guys for helping me prepare for this trip and this event. And I can't wait to fill you in on all of the details next week. Love you guys. Have a good week. Thanks for calling in sick with me another time. And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for joining me for another week of Calling in Sick. As a reminder, I would love for y'all to like, follow, subscribe, save, share with a friend, do all of the things. It truly helps grow this community, and it helps these episodes reach the people that need them the most, whether that's for an educational piece, to have a little laugh, or to not feel so alone. As a reminder, Calling in Sick sits on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify, and anywhere else where you can find your listens. From the bottom of my heart, I absolutely love you guys. Thank you so much for calling in sick with me every Monday. It's been an honor and a pleasure so far, and I can't wait to continue. I can't wait to continue building this community with y'all. Love you.